called vividly Mr. Goldwyn Keynes in 1973. Told me at a public safety juvenile convocation in the U.S. Virgin Islands that St. Kitts had two main exports. One was sugar cane. The other was children with brains. Mr. Keynes was not wrong in his assessment. Today, we no longer have sugar cane, but we still have children with brains. Unfortunately for some of us, some of our children are not using the full capacity of their brains. We might be a small nation, St. Kitts and Nevis, but we have collectively over the years exported some very talented children across the world. Today, we have descendants of these children making or having made an impact in most every city across the world. Alexander Hamilton is the first name that many of us think about when it comes to sons and daughters of the soil who have made an impact in their society and embrace their heritage and ethical values away from home. But there are others who, just like you and me, began with very humble beginnings. And I can think of two right now. Elena Leonie Elizabeth Davis, born 5 June 1900 in Bastille, St. Kitts, to Robert and Alice Maud Rebecca Angus Davis, moved to St. Croix with her parents at a young age. And it seems like the trick is to move to St. Croix at a young age. So did Alexander Hamilton, by the way. Moved to St. Croix at a young age. Elena would later marry Adam Christian, a native of St. Croix. Elena Christian contributed immensely to the education of the people of St. Croix. The Elena Christian Junior High School in Christiansted is named in her honor, even though she was not born in St. Croix. And it was done while she was alive to see it. Elena Christian's son, a descendant of a native of this soil, was the first district court judge of the U.S. Virgin Islands. His name is Judge Mary Christian. And Elena's granddaughter, who was born in St. Croix, and Elena being a native of this soil, her granddaughter is the U.S. Congresswoman of the Virgin Islands. They have all followed in her footsteps of exercising tolerance, compassion, and self-respect. Another example of children of citizens of the Federation being born abroad, but holding on to the values they were taught by their parents from the Federation, is Constance Baker Motley, the daughter of Willoughby Baker, a Division. Like Elena Christian, Willoughby instilled in his daughter the values he learned in the Federation as a child. Willoughby's daughter Constance would grow up to serve citizens in America who were denied a basic right in the United States, which is the right to an education. The virtues instilled in Constance by her father had led her to fight for all people and the passage of legislation in the United States, known to all of us who have went to school in the United States, as Brown versus the Board of Education. Constance would go on to the U.S. Supreme Court 10 times, and she would win her cases 9 out of the 10 times on behalf of equal rights for citizens who were disadvantaged in the United States. And as I speak right now, I'd like to acknowledge in the back relatives of Constance Baker Motley, myself, and the Waldman sitting back there. Constance would go on to become the first black federal female judge in the United States of America, appointed by President Johnson. Her father was from Nevis. She would go on to become a member of Columbia Law School. She was the first black woman accepted into that law school. She would go on to become the first black woman to be elected to the New York Senate. She would go on to become the first woman and the first black woman to hold the position of Manhattan Borough President in New York. This is a woman who was instilled with the values, children, by her parents from the Federation. I can go on with many stories like this. People like you and me who have made a difference because of the teachings that they received here in the Federation. It was John Vid00034 who said that the willingness to accept responsibility in one's own life is the source from which self-respect springs. I wish to appeal to our young people, those in here and those out there, raise your hand, who find themselves in various stages of decision making. Please, do the right thing and respect yourselves. You have an obligation to set the standard for responsible living. It is said that self-respect is the cornerstone of all virtue. With it comes self-discipline, self-control, the ability to set lifelong goals as an individual, and the ability to achieve those goals.